Hello and welcome to the Dublin Arsenal podcast. I'm your host, as always, Jonathan Giles, in the company of BBC Match of the Day commentator and Premier League production commentator Conor McNamara. How are you, Conor?
Great, very good. Fresh from the Emirates, which I thought was resplendent on Sunday in the sunshine. I was actually trying to work out how old the stadium was. It just still feels brand new when you go in there. So a very happy place.
We'll also be looking back on transfer deadline day, which was quite busy for ourselves, plenty of outgoings. So we'll wrap up our summer transfer business there and get Conor's thoughts of the transfer window on a whole for the Premier League. And we'll also be discussing our return to the Champions League group stages, the first time since 2016, where we will face PSV Eindhoven, RC Lens and Sevilla. So sit back and enjoy the show. I'm also joined on the show, as always, by my regular guests. You don't know who you're going to get. So, Eamonn, who are you this week?
Evening, Jonathan. Evening, Conor. Just watching a bit of Reeling in the Years there. Bit of Gilbert O'Sullivan. The thing about his songs is nothing rhymes there, Jonathan. Nothing rhymes.
We go on to our summer transfers, lads. Our ins were Kai Havertz, Declan Rice, Jurrien Timber and David Raya. And our outs, we had a good feud. And Rob Holding went to Palace for 4 million. Sambi Lukonga, Luton on loan, which I think is a good move. Nuno Tavares went to Forest on loan. Fodon Balogun went to Monaco, 38 million, which was nice to get. Didn't think we were aiming for 40 million, but it was nice to get that. Kieran Tierney, Real Sociedad, he being the Champions League. I kind of missed Tierney, but just didn't fit into Arteta's way of playing. Matt Turner went to Forest. Austin Trusty went to Sheffield United. Granit Xhaka, as we all know, went to Leverkusen. Pablo Marie to Monza, and then Maitland Niles just went down his contract and he's at Lyon now. Conor, what do you make of the ins and outs for Arsenal this summer?
I think what was interesting to me was Balogun. I wondered would he get a run, and it's probably a testament to how good Nketiah has been that Arteta felt he wasn't, that he was going to be surplus to requirements. But everything I've heard about what he did in France last season, he was top notch, and for Monaco to spend that much on him, I mean that's a lot of money for Monaco to spend.
Yeah.
So. He will score goals for France. So that was, if anything was to happen to Nketiah or if Gabriel Jesus, who's got a bit of a history now of injuries, I wonder second half of the season will Arsenal fans think, if we'd still had Balogun. But look, he's not proven Premier League level, and it's not that, I think that was a calculated risk. I think selling him for 20 million, you raise eyebrows. You get that much money, it's probably the right decision to move him on. And then of the other ones, like as you say, Tierney, lovely player, whatnot, but not needed. He wasn't going to get his game. I think he probably needs to be in a team that plays 3 central defenders now, because he plays that role for Scotland, where they've got Andy Robertson as the left wing back, and he plays the sort of left-sided set of a 3, and I think that's a good position for him. He can still go off these underlapping runs, whatever he wants to do, but Arteta doesn't play that formation, so it was probably the right thing for him to move on. And then look, we've discussed the incomings with Rice and Havertz, and I think that's a good transfer window. I think if you think back to 12 months ago, it was kind of a shift in mood, I felt. Bringing in Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus, 2 guys who'd won medals before, that's exactly what the dressing room needed. And that's kind of been, I know Rice hasn't won stuff, but he's an established England player. Like he's one of the first names the team sheets for Gareth Southgate. Again, I feel it's a statement to the right direction of strengthening the team. So I would say overall very good transfer window for Arteta.
Yeah, you cover a lot of the Premier League, Conor, from commentating and your work with BBC and all. In terms of the transfer window as a whole, including deadline day, who do you think done the best bit of business? What caught your eye? What club caught your eye? Or
I think what's caught my eye is just Chelsea, and I don't get it. I don't understand it. It makes no, it's Nottingham Forest last year. It doesn't matter how talented these guys are. You buy that many of them, it's not, and they all seem to be the same position. It's all sort of attacking midfielders, millions of them. And I don't know of any precedent in the history of football where any team, even forget about the money, just bringing in that many new players and it all clicks. It never seems to happen, and how they haven't realised that. Whether it's some business strategy, and it kind of reminds me of the Peter Ridsdale days at Leeds. They're just bringing in players and putting them on contracts and hoping to sell them on at a profit. And I don't know, but that really sort of bamboozles me. I think Manchester City have been so smart in the transfer window. I think Mateus Nunes is fantastic. He's a player Guardiola's tracked for a long time now. Because I remember the time doing this Wolves game and Guardiola's commentating. He's like, Mateus Nunes, I think he's one of the best players in the world. I was like, what? Like, this is back in 2022. I was like, hang on, what? And so he has been tracking him that far back. I saw this Jeremy Doku guy played the weekend, and he looked.
They always seem to do their business right at the end of the transfer window, City. Yeah.
Well, you say that, but then they got Kovacic right at the beginning, didn't they? And again, that's such a good replacement there for.
But I think Manchester City are much as I dislike the influence that came into them and changed the fabric of the game. Some of it started that kind of thing. They've been really smart, and they don't outspend other clubs. Like Chelsea are outspending everybody, and I just wonder, Conor, like you rub shoulders with people who chatter about the game. How in the name of God are they not incurring FFP penalties? I just can't. I know 8-year contracts and all, but what in the name of God?
Yeah, no, but the 8-year contract is the answer. So it's a weird. It's like the kind of house crisis thing in Ireland. You know, the bubble's going to burst thing, where it's all well and good. House prices are going up. Oh, great! I own a house, so therefore I'm going to be fine. But the trouble is the bubble. You know, eventually it has to hit it. You know, it can't keep going up forever. But what they've done is they've made all these signings, and the way financial fair play works is you divide it over the duration of the contract. And traditionally contracts were 3-4 years. So if you bought a player for 90 million, it was 30 million a year with what was on the books. Yeah. By stretching it out to 8 years, you know, if it's an 80 million signing, it's only 10 million a year. So, you know, in this crazy market, 10 million gets you nothing. So so right here, right now, that's fine. But you know, then it goes into next year, then it goes into the year after, then it goes after. You know, it's at some point these guys have to be good enough, or they have to sell them on. And that's why I still think that it does. When I look at the names written down on paper, it doesn't make sense to me that all these guys can play in the same club together. That's not what this is intended for. It's so I think what they're hoping is Mudryk becomes the new Mbappe and they sell him for 300 million or something. I don't. But it absolutely bamboozles me and sort of what they're trying to do.
As well, Stephen Warnock was on Match Today too, and he said, like, with the contracts being so long, like you said, Eamonn, 8 years seems to be the longest. If they have a stinker in the first 2 or 3 years, you know, and it does continually declines, you're left with a player, as you said, Conor.
I'm going to say 2 words to you, Jonathan. I'm going to say 2 words to you. Nicholas Pepe.
I was just going to say that there next. Actually, yeah, we're left with a stinker.
72 million. You know.
I'll tell you a funny story. I remember years and years ago, I was working for BBC Radio with Danny Mills, and Danny's actually good company. He's kind of one of those guys. Before I met him, you know, the kind of skinhead and the English, you know, and you kind of wonder, I don't know if I'm going to get on with him, but he's actually very good company. But we're doing a game at Leeds, and Leeds were in the championship or whatnot at that stage. Maybe it's an FA Cup game or something.
Yeah.
And I was told myself, by the way, we've been given car park passes for the such and such a car park, whatever. If you want to, and he said, oh no, don't worry about that. I'll be fine. So he drove up. He went in as if he was a player and stuff, and he got in and he drove into in with all the Porsches and the whatnot, and into the players' car park. And I said, "How did you blag your way? Like, do you know the steward from when you played here?" He goes, "Strictly speaking, I'm still an employee of Leeds United." And at that stage, he had been to Middlesbrough, he'd been to somewhere else, but he was on such a good contract at Leeds that to get him to move, they had to guarantee to keep paying, you know, whatever it was, 50% of his salary for the next, you know, for the remainder of the contract. So even though he stopped playing him, they were still paying him, which is just, you know, but with respect, and you know, he's done very well for himself, and well done, Danny Mills, whatever. But the money that he would have been on then, great as it was, is nothing compared to what these guys are on. So these guys' great grandchildren will never have to work because of it. But it's going to create. Who was your man? William, what was his name? The famous Chelsea guy who never played.
William Bogart.
Bogart, yeah. So they'll have a few William Bogarts who'll just say, you know what? I'm waking up. I've got silk sheets. I've got 4 Bentleys. I've got, you know, why bother? Just, you know, I could see a few of them in the changing room.
You'd be better off with Dirk Bogart, I think. You know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. He never came.
But it's raping Deirdre. That's what Campbell would say about it, you know.
Yeah, as he actually said, he actually came out, William Bogart, and was asked about that. Wasn't off straight and that he didn't play for a year. He says, "Why would I when I can sit on the bench and not get injured and have to lie?" You know, but
that's some attitude now. Yeah.
I just want to ask Conor this one. Nicholas Pepe, Connor, can you see the Saudi Arabian League, their transfer window closes, I think, mid-month. Can you see one of them putting in a bid for him, do you think?
I guess so. I think if you look at in the main, they've gone for big names, and the question then is Nicholas Pepe a big enough name? Has he, is he going to attract that sort of attention that they want? What I would imagine, and this is not fact-based or information-based, this is my assumption, is what they want to, I think they realistically know people aren't going to sit down with their mates and watch 90 minutes of Saudi football. I can't see a world where we're all going to the pub to watch, two Saudi teams taking on each other. But what they will get is social media. So you'll see, have you seen the bicycle kick Ronaldo did, or have you seen the strop such and such pulled, or have you seen So that's what they want. So of course they want Neymar, of course they want Mbappe for that. And we're already. I mean, every time I turn on my social media now, I'm seeing Messi doing something in MLS and celebrities watching him.
That's right.
That's what. Now the question you got to ask is Nicholas Pepe going to? If you're scrolling past, you go, Pepe scores wonder goal. Will you click on it? Yeah, probably. Arsenal fans would, but would anyone else? That's kind of the problem. Again, Pepe's one of those, all the talent in the world, but I just feel we never saw it often enough. I remember there was one game at Leeds one time and he played well, and I've been thinking, here we go, he's going to take off now. But no, I just haven't seen it. So absolutely, for him, I think, funny enough, I think it'd be a deal because I don't see him getting the Arsenal team, and if he can secure his finances, fair play to him, off you go. But I don't know. I just don't know.
I don't know. His body language seems to stink as well, doesn't it? There's something there that are.
I just think that I don't mind the body language. I mean, Kai Havertz's body language stinks.
Yeah.
And people say he doesn't look happy now for us. Kai Havertz is just one of these guys that doesn't look happy. That's okay. People carry. Dennis Bergkamp never looked happy. I'm okay with that. That's great. But what I'm saying to you is, we just need to get him off the wage bill. At this stage, that was a Raul Sanllehi signing done over 5 years, right? Checkbook Raul, contact book Raul, before our club was being run properly. That was a Raul Sanllehi signing, right? And the thing with Pepe, Arteta lost patience with him. He has all the talent in the world. He's uncoachable.
He's uncoachable.
You can't coach him into a team, and that's why Arteta, who, and we might be down on him from time to time about overcomplicating things. He couldn't coach the lad, right? And if you can't coach the lad to fit into what we're trying to do, well, then you need to get him off the wage bill. So if a Saudi club came along and offered 10 quid plus a free shawarma kebab, I would take it.
Yeah, it's sad because he did score some cracking goals for us. I remember in 2021, it was during the lockdown. It was the second, I think, when Sam Allardyce was in charge of Westmore, he scored a screamer. I think we won 3-1 that day. He did have his moments, as Conor said, but he didn't show it enough to warrant, and that's...
Under Unai Emery, I was when he made his debut. It was actually Arsenal Burnley, and he came on at half-time, or just after half-time, and we just looked at him and went, oh my God. There was him and Danny Ceballos, right? And we just went, oh my God, who is this guy? He is absolutely fantastic. But the sun was shining, and we were doing well. As another Raymond might have said, I think he'd be a bit of a sunshine player.
I don't know. I can see glimpses of Ali Dia in him, the lad to play for Southampton. He shouldn't be a professional at all. But look, we see with that in mid-September now, fingers crossed we can shift him, and that will be the last player you could say that Arteta just wants rid of. Yeah. We move on to our Champions League group. Sorry? Oh, Cedric, yeah. Well, you never know. Saudi Arabia, are you listening? Yeah, in terms of our Champions League group, lads, it's the first time we've been back in it since 2016. I remember I was at the new camp and then he scored that screamer. I think we lost 3-1 that night. I never thought it would take 7 years nearly to get back into it again, but we're back and there should be good nights ahead. We'll face PSV Eindhoven, RC Lens, who we played in I think it was the 98-99 when we first qualified for the Champions League. So that's kind of takes you back. And Sevilla, who always seem to do well in the Europa League, not the Champions League, but you'd reckon, Conor, that there's enough in this Arsenal to win the group, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the assumption is Arteta will go for it. I mean, there's definitely a world where he goes, there's a chance in the Premier League here, and I'm going to prioritise that. That there's a possibility, but I think he goes for it. And do you know what? At lunchtime today, I was sitting opposite an Arsenal fan. We were talking about this, and I said something. It's kind of, you know, the way you just say things, you don't even. But then after I said it, I kind of went, actually, yeah, that might be true as well. Is it more likely Arsenal might win the Champions League than the Premier League? I can just see it.
It's last season.
Martinelli,
Saka,
yeah. Whereas I just think City are so. Like, everyone can have a bad day. City could have a few bad days. Champions League get knocked out of the Champions League, but they could have a few bad days in the Premier League and still win it. Whereas I think Arsenal could have their best days, and you know, on their best day they can beat anyone. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And they can definitely get through that group. You're right. Sevilla very good, but they don't have the pedigree of doing it in the Champions League, and the other teams are definitely beatable. So into the knockout stages, and then it goes, you know, over 2 legs. You know, I think Saka, Martinelli are, you know, beyond ready for Champions League now. They'll be to the manner born. Then you keep everyone fit, but then, as you mentioned with the transfer window, that supporters there, Ramsdale doesn't fancy it, it goes through a bad slump. You bring in Raya. You know, there's a lot of options now. So yeah, it's going to be really. I think things like League Cup will go out the window, and FA Cup. I don't imagine Arsenal, you know, that they'll be involved in whatever, but it's not going to party. But have a really good go at the Champions League could be exciting.
Yeah, it's at Wembley Stadium, the final this season, and I think it's the last season where it's going to be group stages, isn't it? It's just going to be a league format. What do you think of that, Conor?
I don't know. Like it's obviously been driven by TV money. The bottom line is I like the Champions League as it is. You know, it really works as a format for me. You get through the group stages, and then you get to you know, the knockout rounds are as exciting as anything. For people who don't know, it's going to be bigger groups, so I think it's like 8 teams or something group, and everyone plays everyone, and so instead of the current 6 games they play now, I think it's 8 games that they'll play in the sort of group stage part of it, you know, up until Christmas. So yeah, look, let's see what happens. But it to me, it ain't broke, don't fix it. But yeah, it's the TV money. I know I can't complain. That's what puts the hot dinners on the table in my house. So you know, we'll go along with that for now. Listen, guys, I gotta make a run, okay? But I'll be back in with you soon. And thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks, Conor. Thanks for coming along.
Thanks a million.
See you again soon. See you, Conor. Yeah. As Conor was saying, Eamonn, you'd assume the group that were in, PSV, Lens and Sevilla, you'd assume that we should top that group, shouldn't we? And you know, anything, I know you have to take it at face value, but you'd assume that we'd get through that group handy enough, wouldn't you?
Well, I'd assume that we qualify. As the operating match name Brady said, or the real name Brady, Trapattoni, he was busy qualifying. But, no, I think like Sevilla wouldn't be, they'd be our level. Like, you know, they would be. PSV beat us. Lens beat us. And who's the other team in the group?
Sevilla, sorry, PSV.
No, PSV, Lens, ourselves.
And Sevilla.
Sevilla, yeah, it's a tricky enough group. Look, the fact that it is come out of that. I actually think, here's what I'm going to say to you now. You can see more football in Champions League from Eamonn Smith-Rowe and Fabio Vieira.
Yeah. You reckon there'll be more game time? Or it's
not just about giving them game time, but the grind of the Premier League is different.
Yeah.
And the energy you need in the Champions League. And I just think that we'll see more minutes from the likes of Smith-Rowe and Vieira and possibly Reece Nelson as well.
Can you see David Raya starting in the Champions League instead of Ramsdale, do you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But in fairness to Ramsdale, my only criticism of him is I don't like the way he fully set pieces. But the way he commanded the situation on Sunday, up for the challenge.
Yeah, he is actually. He actually saved very well from Martial where you were sitting, didn't he?
Apart from the saves, like his positioning around, like he got mugged last week for the cup, and he could have been in forward and then retreated back into his box this week. No, he went and did the same thing, believed in what he was doing, and I really like that in a player. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really good day, I think, on Sunday. Yeah, we showed our true credentials. You know, we mean business, and there was a piece on Match Today too as well. Arteta's transformed us from looking to qualify, you know, looking to finish fourth, to actually going to challenge for the title again, isn't it? Yeah.
And as well as that, here's one other thing he's done, and I'll leave this all with this thought. After Declan got the goal, I was thinking, the pessimist in me was thinking, what could possibly go wrong? Well, everything, you know. So you're looking at the last couple of minutes. I couldn't see. And I'll tell you why. People were standing on the seats, bouncing up and down. People were standing on the seat. So I had to stand up on the seat. When the third goal went in, some random bloke behind me jumped on me. Sure, I came down off the seat like Nadia Comaneci coming in, you know. But what I'm saying is that I'll tell you what Arteta's done. He has dispelled this Highbury Library, Emirates is a morgue type of thing. That place is rocking. It's absolutely rocking, and that tells you a lot, you know.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, even the Ashburton boys were making great noise, weren't they? Like, they're a great addition.
They went to down with me.
Yeah.
They're in front of me.
Were they?
Piece of cake. The Dublin Arsenal supporters club saw them boys off. Yeah. Yeah. Go on the north side.
There was great photos of you actually.
The atmosphere is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know?
Actually, you met up with Carl Ozzy Osborne, didn't you? How was he doing?
Yeah, I met Carl Ozzy Osborne. I did. Yeah, he's in good form.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a good little point. He said to be back at some stage, you know.
Yeah, which is good news. We like having Carl on, yeah. In terms of would you like to anything mention about the renewal, the signing up to the Dublin Arsenal Supporters Club is over now, isn't it? For this season.
It's gone now. I mean, we're at full capacity. That's it. You know, there's only so much we can do. You know.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. Look, with the ballot system and all, look, it's going to be kind of tougher. But yeah, look, everyone's welcome in the River Bardo. Look, cracking atmosphere from Martin's.
You know about that ballot system? I have an issue about that. I didn't vote for it. Oh, but it sounds frustrating, Deirdre.